Okay, guys. So let's just start discussing about this ACCA performance management. What I have opened in front of you is the CBE examination of the which is available on the ACCA platform. And this specific paper that I've actually opened up is the examination available, a specimen examination available on your website for the CBE practice platform. As you know that when you go about, there are these instructions. So multiple pages for the instructions. Until the time you don't read the instructions properly, the page does not move forward. So now, what am I going to do is that I've got this specific question, and this specific question is basically going to be one of those questions we are going to discuss multiple areas related to the syllabus. Now, the first thing that I would want to actually go about discussing is that Um, we have got this one of the questions which actually has multiple requirements. As you know that you've got constructed response questions, and you've got a choice that in case if you want you can just move the screen this way. So basically there is one of the requirement which is explain the main principles of activity based budgeting. That's one of the area. If I could just move on to the second requirement of the question, it says calculate any spare capacity or shortage in the hours required to meet expected monthly output for production machine time, quality control inspectors, and shipping administrators. So you would have to do the calculations for each one of these people, that do you have any spare capacity or do you have any shortage related to these people. Next, the third part of the question is that discuss the implications of your findings in B for trade sports shoes production process. So whatever your findings were, that is in part B. So you would have to discuss the implications of those findings on your manufacturing process. Now let's have a bit of a discussion about it, that how things are going to move. So first of all, let's just read through this specific question so that we are able to know that what is actually going on. So first of all, read through this question. Um, if I could just expand it, it says trade company manufactures sports shoes and clothing. It is a relatively small company and has a good reputation for producing high quality products. In recent months, however, there have been an increasing number of customer complaints about quality problem with trade companies' sports shoes. So what is their key thing? They have been famous for producing high quality products, but in recent time, what has actually happened is that the customer complaints have gone up. Now it says trade company is profitable. Trade company is profitable, but finance director who joined the company last year believes that there are inefficiencies in its operations and consequently it isn't as profitable as it could be. So the finance director, he says that the company is underperforming. The company has the potential, company can perform quite better. Now what else is there? It says the finance director believes that trade company's budgeting system is partly to be blamed for this. So he thinks that the company is not performing well, and the major reason could be because of the budgeting system. Now, he says the company currently uses an incremental approach to budgeting. So you do know what an incremental to approach to budgeting is, that you use the current year's budget, you incorporate the adjustments to the current year budget so that you end up reaching the next year budget. But the finance director believes activity-based budgeting would be more appropriate. So he thinks that activity-based budgeting would be more appropriate. He is analyzing the production process for sports shoes to support his suggestion, and he has asked you for help in connection with this. Trade company produces two different styles of a sports shoe, the deluxe and the standard, and has contracts to supply these to several large retail chains. Much of the production process is automated and production occurs in batches. Similar goods are shipped to customers in batches. Demand is relatively constant throughout the year. Operational data for each month is as each product is as follows. Deluxe is standard. Monthly demand, pairs of shoes produced, production batch size, shipment batch. The production line for sports shoes has a capacity of this. In addition to staff, they employ two quality control inspectors, so and so, so and so. Now, The production line for sports shoe has a capacity of 175 production machine hours per month after allowing for setup time. In addition to staff who work on production line, trade also employs 2 quality control inspectors and 2 shipping administrators also. Each of these employees is contracted to work 150 hours per month and their salaries are treated as overheads. Quality control staff inspect a sample of sports shoes. From each batch produced and the standard inspection time is so and so. Shipping administrators prepare the batches to be dispatched to the customers. Now, the question says that explain the main principles of the activity-based budgeting system. So what are the main principles for the activity-based budgeting system? Let me just guide you people through. I'm just going to write down few of the pointers and I would actually just relate it to this specific company. Now, what happens is that activity-based budgets are prepared on the basis of the data generated through activity-based costing. So let me repeat, activity-based budgeting. Activity-based budgets are prepared on the basis of the data which is generated through the activity-based costing. Now, what actually happens is that the implementation of the activity-based costing requires entity to apply the following steps. Identification of the activities undertaken, that is machine setup, quality inspection, dispatch preparations in the case of trade company, developing of the cost pools, which is to accumulate all the costs related to an activity. The third one of them is determining the cost drivers, that is the actions that drive the cost. In the case of trade company, it would be number of times setups are performed, number of times inspections are done, etc. etc. Activity overhead absorption rate is determined using activity cost pool and budgeted cost drivers. The overheads on the basis of the activities are absorbed. The overheads on the basis of the activities are absorbed as part of the product cost on the basis of number of activities undertaken by undertaken for the manufacture of such product. In the case of activity based budgeting, all above steps will be applied and the budget will be established using the activity overhead absorption rates for each of the activities. Do you people get it? Do you understand this? Yeah, hello. Do you people understand this? Yeah, hello. Are you people there? Okay, so you do understand this, right? Okay, now let's move a bit forward and let's discuss further. The next aspect is that the question says calculate any spare capacity or shortage in the hours required to meet the expected monthly output for production machine time, quality control inspectors, and shipping administrators. So now what is it that we need to do? We need to compare the time available with the time required. I mean, what is it that we need to do? We need to discuss and we need to compare it with the time available with the time required. Now, what are you gonna do? You're gonna say that for each one of them, we have been given the operational data that monthly demand, pair of shoes produced per production machine hour is this, production batch size is this, shipment batch size is this and this. Now the key information here is that the production line for shoes has a capacity of 175 production machine hours per month after allowing for setup time. Now, what happens is that if I talk about these products individually, deluxe and standard, and if I say number one of them is for the machine production machine time, total time required also needs to be established. Now, what do we need to do about this production machine time? We need to say number of machine hours needed. How would we calculate it? We would say 22,500 divided by, so pair of shoes produced per machine hour, 250. 90 machine hours needed. In this case, it's gonna be 24,000 divided by 30 divided by 300 divided by 300. 80 machine hours needed. So what is the total time needed? This plus this is this. Machine hours available is 175. Hence, there is going to be a surplus of how much? This minus this. So you've got 5 hours of surplus. I mean, what have you got? You've got 5 hours of surplus. Is this okay to all? If I talk about quality control inspectors, so it says production batch size is this, shipment batch size is this. In addition to the staff who work on the production line, trade also employs 2 quality control inspectors. Each of these employees is contracted to work 150 hours per month. Number of inspection hours required. How would we get it? We would get it like this. We would say that control staff inspect a sample of sports shoes from each batch produced, and the standard inspection time is 2.5 hours per batch produced. So basically what happens is that number of batches, time per batch, total inspection hours required. So number of batches is gonna be 22,500 divided by 300. It's gonna be 24,000 divided by 400. The time per batch, the time per batch that is needed is 2.5. So it's gonna be this into this gives you the total time, number of inspection hours required. So that is going to be this plus this. Number of inspection hours available is gonna be 2 into 150. Hence shortage or shortfall is gonna be this minus this. 37.5 hour is the shortfall. You have got the surplus, then there is a shortfall. Now next is basically shipment shipping administrators. I would copy the same formula for the shipping administrators which I did for the quality control inspectors. Why? Because it's more or less the same thing here also. We would say shipment batch sizes. It takes 0.75 per batch shipped. So the answer is gonna be here. It's 22,500 divided by 125. It's gonna be 24,000 divided by 150. 0.75 is the time that is needed. Hence number of shipping admin time required. So 255 hours are required. Number of hours available. The surplus is gonna be 45. The surplus is gonna be 45. Is this okay to you all? Okay, lovely. Now, what's the next requirement? The last requirement. The last requirement is basically, it says discuss the implications of your findings in B for trade company sports shoes production process. Now, implications is the impact. Implications is the impact. So what actually happens is that the problem over here is that you've got surplus machine hour available. You've got shortfall in quality control inspectors, and you've got surplus in shipping administrators. The shortfall is basically in the quality inspectors. Now, what is gonna be the implications? Let's have a bit of a discussion about it. If I talk about the implications for this, what is actually gonna be the impact? Due to shortfall in the time available for the quality inspectors, all the products manufactured are not checked for the quality appropriately. This results in, you see what happens is that there is a shortfall in the time available. This results in many of the products to skip the quality control inspection, and hence the poorer quality is passed on to the customer. The impact of this is the dissatisfaction amongst the customer, especially considering the fact that trade company has a good reputation for producing high quality products, whereas due to lack of available time, the quality is being compromised. Furthermore, the shipping administrators have ample amount of time left, which could not be utilized unless the quality inspectors are introduced. Therefore, unnecessary costs are incurred for the shipping administrators, and the result is that trade ends up paying for the unused capacity. Is that okay? This is where the problem is. The overall impact of the above is that profitability of the business is down, plus there is an impact on the reputation of the business which could have impacts on the future revenues and hence the profitability of the business. Do you people get it? Yeah, hello. Is it all understood now? Do you understand the implications, the impact, the problems? Okay, good enough. So we are done with this specific question, the name of which was trade company and it was about budgeting. That is something that we have done now.